Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us. Hello, everybody. What an amazing weekend so far. You guys are awesome.
First off, I just wanted to congratulate you guys on cleaning up at the Chainsaw Awards. You won Best Limited Release. Lauren took home the Editor's Eyeball Award, which is something that we just made up this year because we were like, as the editors of Fango, we wanted to recognize certain folks, so Lauren was one of them. And Damien, you took Best Makeup Effects as well. And the big one, this is not even fucking close, I will tell you, our big write-in category, unprompted, we asked you guys to write in Best Kill. It wasn't even close for second place, you just fucking swept it. Did you guys see the bedroom kill that you guys like now? So, my dad freaked out also, by the way. I watched with my parents, and my dad freaked out that you were the writer, the director, and did the effects on it. And he was like, what? So I think you just made a new fan also out of my dad.
Oh, thank you, Dad.
So let's talk a little bit about the inception of this. Is you have Terrifier 2. I mean, I can't look around the convention in any direction I was telling you without seeing like a dozen Art the Clowns at least. So I feel like you have this rabid fan base with Terrifier, and I feel like that fucking like tenfold for Terrifier 2. Like, what has this all been like in that kind of inception from your early creation of Art the Clown? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it does not sink in. We say it all the time. This is so surreal, and we don't take any of this for granted. It's so special. Because if you just judge it by Terrifier 2, it kind of seems like an overnight success. Like it came, it blew up, and then turned into this new thing. But really, it's been a very long journey. So I created Art the Clown back in 2005 or 6 for my first short film. And he was only in the first like 4 minutes, and then it, turns over to like demons and witchcraft and all kinds of things. And when people would see that, they would just say, "Dude, that clown at the beginning is like insane. He looks so cool. He's so creepy. You have to just keep going and making more things with that." And then I decided to make another short film years later, which was called Terrifier, and that's kind of when I personally realized, or I was like, this character, there really is something cool there. There's something special, and I just had to keep following him. It was just like the North Star that I just had to keep following to where I was going to go. So again, it's been a really long journey, but it wasn't until then that I realized we had something special. But with part 2, I mean, we didn't even know it was going to go into the movie theaters because it's so unprecedented. Like the first one did, and now we have this sequel to an obscure movie that's unrated. It's 2 hours and 18 minutes long, and they would ask me, "You think it's going to go in the theaters?" And I'm like, "Probably not. It's kind of never happened before." And then kudos to Cinedigm who put it out because they were really pushing for a theatrical. I said, "If you could do it, that's going to be great." But I'm not going to hold my breath. But sure enough, they got it into a handful of theaters, like maybe 800 theaters for one weekend. That's when it was supposed to play, just one weekend. And then by that Sunday, reports on Twitter and social media started coming out that people were passing out and fainting in the theater, puking. It's organic, it's real. It was not us, I promise you. There's an amazing picture on Twitter that popped up, which I'm sorry, but it was like a guy had a panic attack or puked or fainted, and he's in the lobby, and they put like an emoji over his face, and it's just like his friend filming him, and paramedics walking over to him, and above his shoulder is the Terrifier 2 poster. It's like, you can't.
So who you should really thank for that is the asshole friend who was filming, right? Like, shout out to them.
He's like, "My friend just passed out in Terrifier 2. It's a pretty gnarly movie. I recommend you go see it."
And you got a lot of mainstream media coverage from that as well. Like this was like it wasn't just like horror outlets covering this. Like this was everywhere. It became like a sensation.
Yeah. So like I said, after that, then that following week was every morning talk show was talking about it. Howard Stern was talking about it for like an hour segment on his show. Stephen King tweeted about us. Like that's really fancy stuff, like for something like that, but it was wild. We wake up every morning and text each other. She's like, "You see what's happening? Like, what's going on now? We're talking about it now." So we enjoyed it. We were able to take that in.
David, I can't with you. You want to talk to us a little bit about, you have a wordless performance, but you bring so much to that. What do you do to prepare for that and to kind of differentiate from other roles where you're playing a creepy, wordless monster?
Well, first of all, I kind of based art off of so many different characters that I grew up watching, because I was given a great guess, upbringing with film, with classic film. I was watching old black and white comedies and stuff like that. So I was watching Marx Brothers and Chaplin, Buster Keaton, and those guys growing up. And that's what I got a lot from, was those great silent comedians that came before me, all the way up to like, Peter Sellers and Jim Carrey, and Mr. Bean, Doug Jones, all those guys. There's so many great people to learn from, and I just adapted. But as I was telling you backstage, I also like to bring in animal characteristics to a lot of characters I play, especially like villains and like predators and stuff like that. And I based art off of a vulture. So he had that beak nose. He always has a little hunch, but vultures, birds of prey, everything. They use their eyes first. So it's like I always look at something that the head moves. That's how birds are. So I based him off of the vulture. It's kind of weird, I know, but it works.
The two of you together as like a unit have managed to do something that I think a lot of people aspire to do and just doesn't always land. And you've created this new iconic slasher that is now lives in like the lexicon of legends. And people often try to do that. That's like the goal, but it just doesn't land. But again, like how many Art the Clowns are in this room right now? I don't really, but I've been seeing them walking around all weekend, and I mean, it's now up there with like the Jasons and the Michaels, and that's just crazy to me. Like, how do you feel like just like it's just blown up and you just see it everywhere?
It's pretty amazing. I like it. Like I said before, it really doesn't sink in. I've been I think it's because, hopefully, if the reason why it worked is because it's organic and it's always coming from a genuine place of a genuine fan. I've been obsessed with the slasher since I'm a little kid. I used to have the Screaming model kits when I was like 6 years old, like Jason, all the Michael Myers, Freddy in my room. I was watching them since I'm 3, literally. Thanks to my mother, I say all the time. She named me after Leone, I'm sure you all know that. I was subjected to horror at a very young age. And really just consuming that for years and years. And I was always kind of the outcast amongst my friends and everything. I was the weirdo horror kid, But eventually you put so much stuff in, you got to put something out eventually. So when I realized I wanted to be a makeup artist and filmmaker, I mean, it's really, everything is just, giving back, paying homage to the things that I love. And Terrifier and Art the Clown, they really are. It's just this hodgepodge, this collection of all the greatest hits of the slashers and movies that I grew up idolizing. So.
What was your first horror movie? Do you remember?
I mean, does Jaws count? Because definitely Jaws, and they were the first movies I started watching were all taped off of television, so they were edited. So, believe it or not, it was Halloween, Friday the 13th Part 4, 3, and Nightmare on Elm Street 1. Those were like, and I'm talking 3 years old, literally watching those. Yeah. So, see, there you go. People don't believe me. Yeah, no joke.
Shout out to your mom.
Yeah, Mom Leone.
Young, were you watching that?
No, it's like, my mom was a different type of mine. My mom was a chicken shit. She thought The Fall of the House of Usher was the scariest movie of all time. So if she was still alive, she would be like, I love you, baby, but no, I cannot watch this. I was a little late to the game. I didn't really start. I mean, I saw Poltergeist though one time when I was a kid, because right when they came out on VHS, and my parents had a watch party at their house, and I snuck out of bed, and it got to the clown strangulation scene, and that freaked me out, and that's when I revealed myself to everybody, and so yeah. My mom also used that movie to get me to behave, because I used to always sit right in front of the TV set. And she's like, if you sit that close to the TV, you'll get sucked in like a little girl. It worked. For years, I used to like walk like a white bird around for TV. It worked. She was notorious for that kind of stuff. She was so creative. She told me like, also if I picked my nose and ate my boogers, that the boogers were worm eggs, and they would hatch in my stomach, and I'll have to get my stomach broken. I believed that too for a long time. And that's why I'm Art the Clown. I was late to the game. I first started watching horror movies my senior year in high school because that's when Scream 2 came out. And I was in a production of A Christmas Carol. I'm a musical theater nerd and all that kind of stuff. Yes. I was on dance guy. But there was a girl in the cast I had a crush on, and she asked me if I wanted to go with the rest of the cast to go see Scream 2, and I could not kick it out from her, so I went and I had a blast. Into the next year in college, my roommate and I would go every single weekend and just rent stacks of tapes. There was a time when people went to the movie rentals and their tapes called VHS. We just watched a whole entire franchise over the weekend, and that's how I caught up. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. What was my mom talking about? This is fun.
You also created, which I appreciate, an iconic final girl in Terrifier 2. That look, I was hoping that I would see a lot of those this weekend. It's maybe it's difficult to replicate.
It's a very hard costume, but there were a couple. One in particular was like astonishing.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's here
She
right
just
now.
finished it that morning, too.
Yeah, it was really good, because that was one of the hardest things we had to build in the movie, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, like we were building it up until the moment we started shooting it. The first time we shot her in the costume was her going into the carnival, the exterior, when she's looking for Jonathan, and it still wasn't finished. Like we shot her from behind, like she only had like one side of the skirt finished, so we had to like turn it around. It didn't have any sheen on it, but yeah, it was a nightmare, that costume move. But,
It was worth it though.
yeah, it was worth it.
It paid off.
It looks great. But yeah, Lauren Rivera just knocked that performance out of the park. I mean, that doesn't work the podcast.
She definitely made my job easier. I mean, she was just absolutely fantastic, and she was my rock during a lot of this too, because especially when we're filming that last big, huge segment there, and the big finale there in the not amusement park, but it wasn't the amusement park, but like the Haunted House, the Terrifier. That was a long ordeal in very miserable conditions in the middle of winter, and we were each other's rock, I guess, through all that. We were powering through it, and she's fantastic, and she gave me so much to work off of, and it's just like I adore her, and I'm so glad that I have someone like that to be my foil for years to come. She is the Batman to my Joker.
Yeah, well, part one was really just a showcase for Art the Clown. And that was kind of the idea going in. We knew it was such a low-budget movie and had to put our all in it and just basically swing for the fences and just, say like, do you guys, will you embrace this character? Like, do you like what we're offering, basically, which is like a greatest hits, where Art's basically the star of the movie. You find out that really he is the hero, so to speak. It was so important to bring in his nemesis this time, and a worthy adversary, and someone that could really, take him out, especially now that he's supernatural and seemingly immortal or so powerful. So it was important to bring in that character. And that's one of my favorite, if not my favorite character that I ever wrote. It's based on a lot of personal relationships and people in my life. My two older sisters, I drew a lot of inspiration from them in that character. There's a lot of me in there, which is being an artist and things with anxiety. Like I really tried to, the whole family dynamic is based on a lot of things in my personal life. So it's also the most vulnerable I ever was as a writer. So hopefully if that resonates, I think that's why it's coming from a genuine place. But again, really, you can only do so much on the page, but it wasn't until Lauren took on the role and made it her own that it really,
And now I somehow love her even more.
Yeah, she's great.
You want to talk a little bit about the effects, particularly in that bedroom scene?
Yes. Well, that was the hardest. I'm probably the most proud of that, but it was very hard to tackle that. Originally, for the first time, I wanted to bring in an additional makeup team to help me, because I did all the effects. Me and my partner Phil did all the effects on Terrifier 1, and it takes forever. I mean, you really need a crew to do that. I mean, after I wrote part 2, I was like, this is insane. This is like the apocalypse now of like slasher indies. I said, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. So we tried to get a team to come in to pick up the slack. It looked like it was going to work, and then maybe a month or so before we started shooting, they bailed out, and now we were really behind. And I was talking to Phil, I said, do stop? Do we postpone? It's like, we keep postponing. We just got to jump in and film, and we'll figure it out as we go. And that just meant me and Phil had to do all the effects as we were going. And we have to basically stop production for like a week at a time, build the effects, go back into shooting. So everybody was like always on standby, and that's why it took so long. But we knew the bedroom scene was going to be the scene supposedly that could rival the hacksaw scene. So when it came time to shoot it, we didn't have the effects prepared, and I'm just watching it on the monitor, and I'm like, there's no way people are going to talk about this scene the way they talk about the hacksaw scene. I was like really miserable, and after we shot it, I would like pull some of the key crew members aside and say, you know, we're going to have to come back and shoot some of this, get inserts, blah, blah, blah. And then we got hit with COVID, and we went into lockdown, and I was like, oh, I have all this time, nothing to do right now. I said, I'm going to reconfigure this entire scene, spend all this time just building the effects the way they should be. So I just went back to Phil's house. We were in his basement for months. We molded his daughter's entire body, like every body part that we could use. I wrote out a list of things we could possibly do to Casey, and we just like chose like 10 of them that we could do, and that was it.
Just 10.
When we finally there's one thing that I didn't get to do because I felt like we were pushing it a little too far.
Oh, you had to pull back a little.
I had to pull back. I had a part where he actually bites her tongue out. That was pushing it. Should have put it in. Then she would have been able to say mom too. So.
Yeah, you can still do that.
That's true.
The L's are the tricky
That's
ones.
right.
With
That's
that
right.
one,
But yeah, but then we went back. We went back finally when lockdown was done, and we shot that entire scene for 5 days straight, which is a long time to shoot that scene and a long time to put Casey Hartnett through hell. I mean, my God, like everything I just said about Lauren, I could say about Casey. I mean, she was the MVP. She did not complain once. We shot that in a barn, in a set we built in a barn in the middle of the winter.
In a snowstorm.
It was freezing. I mean, we had space heaters in between shooting that, but every time we had to shoot, we had to shut them off because we were trying to record sound. You don't want to hear that going. So, I mean, it was miserable. She had to, like, meditate in the corner. She was in some zen state, but she didn't complain once. I mean, she would get stuck to the rug. You can see it in the movie when she's trying to crawl. She's just glued to the rug, basically. I'd have to follow her around between takes and spray her with a water bottle to this girl. So, it was intense. It was hard, but, you know, we just really wanted to deliver on the promise. I mean, people would come up to me and say, well, how are you going to top the hacksaw scene? I'm not saying we did it. Some people think we did. Some people still love the hacksaw scene, but, you know, we'll always give it our all and swing for the fences with these big kill scenes. So we're going to do that again in part 3. Yeah.
I'm afraid of the big part 3 kill. I'm like, I don't even know where you're going to take this.
I
sir.
wish I could tell you.
I don't even know yet.
He knows a piece of it. Yeah, I came up with it like a while ago, but then a month ago, there was something missing, and I finally realized what it's going to be, and you'll know it when you see it happen.
That's the thing. I want to make sure we have time for audience questions. If you guys want to line up in the middle, there's a microphone right there. Go ahead, go for it.
First off, I just want to say congratulations on Best Make Effects, Best Linear Release, Best Kill, well deserved. I thought the film was magnificent.
Thank you.
My question is for you, Damien. When you're writing Art the Clown down, you have him on paper. Did David bring something different that you're thinking, that's not how I thought he would be, but I actually like it, you know, it's actually better than what, or maybe you did exactly how you wanted it to be?
Both. Yeah, 100%. It's very clear when I write him. I know my version of him, exactly what I want, even the jokes, like his sense of humor. But with David, because you all know he replaced Mike Gianelli, and so the first time I saw what David could really bring to it, which would be different, was when we were filming the pizzeria scene, and he gives Tara the ring. And then he gets up and skips away to the bathroom. And I'm watching on the monitor, and I just see this very like Looney Tunes kind of like skip away. I'm like, oof. I'm like, I've never seen Art do that before. But then I'm like, you know what? He's a clown. It's Art the Clown. I'm like, now I have this guy who's very theatrical. He's a trained actor, and let's embrace that and let's inject that into the character. You know, here and there. I didn't want to like overdo it, but that's like one of those things where we kind of start molding it together. When scenes where he's making faces and you know those great. You know, when she's staring at him, every time she looks away and looks back, he's got a different face on. I'll give him a couple like the creepy faces, like I'll show him, you know, that I really like, and then I let the camera roll and I just say, now go crazy, and then he comes up with this this, and all that. And then I get to the editing room and I have this.
Awesome, I appreciate it. David, can you do me a favor and just stand up and just give me the bird, just one time? Awesome, thank you.
Hello, this is for David. It's actually about, not about Terrifier, but about the mean one. I don't know if you have questions about that.
Oh, yeah.
So, I just want to know, how did that come about when you found out that you were going to be the Grinch, let alone, did you have like you terrorize the cast, like behind the scenes or anything?
Well, it's funny, I have a backstory with that character. I toured with him as the understudy for The Grinch for 5 years with a musical of that. I actually came to Dallas back in 2010 with it. But our Grinch was the amazingly talented Stephen Carl, who was Robbie Rotten from Lazy Town. So, yeah, he was fantastic. And so, I mean, he's influenced both of those roles that I'm known for now. It's like, of course, with the mean one also is art, because Steph was actually trained in clowning and mime and all that. So I went to him when I first got cast as art, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to be playing this character. Can you teach me Obi-Wan? And so, yeah, so I of course, based a lot of what I did on the mean one off of what, I learned from Steph all those years and stuff like that. And I also wanted to do my own thing with it too, because it's, it's not necessarily the Grinch that everybody knows from, the animated film and the live action Jim Carrey film and stuff like that. So I wanted to have more of a beastly nature to him, so he's more like Sasquatch type character. He's a lot of fun. I love him. I hope to do more with that version of the character, and they're going to be releasing I believe, a director's cut later on this year. So because I know a lot of you did not get a chance to see it while it was in the theaters because of the very limited run, and it's a fun film. I hope you enjoy it. It's very campy, very low budget, but it's like the Hallmark Channel made a horror movie. So. It's one of my favorite American tales, because really that's How the Grinch Stole Christmas is America's first real Christmas story. When you think about it, so much of the other Christmas stories that we have are based in Europe. So that's a very uniquely American Christmas story. So, yeah.
I was curious where the idea of the trash bag, the black trash bag, came from, because I think it's pretty iconic when he's out in public. It gives a different look to him than the average killer.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I just wanted him to, all these movies, especially Jason, he kind of always has to go look for a weapon, or he disappears, comes back, he's got something new. I wanted him to have them all at his disposal. And he was it's his bag of tricks. He can pull anything I want out of it at any time. So it's almost like a cheap trick.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
For Dave, do you enjoy doing the killing more, or when you're getting killed?
Do I enjoy getting killed more or killing more people?
Yeah.
Well, definitely enjoy killing people. No one wants to die.
Dude, everybody wants to die. That's the only question I get these days. How do I get killed in Terrifier?
It is fun. That's a great way to deal with stress. I mean, he would sometimes do it, it's like, yeah, pretend such and so, and I'm like,
I actually wanted to bring up your appearance in Pete Davidson's Focus. How did that happen, and do you plan on making more appearances in other projects, or small projects, big projects?
Yeah, so Pete's a huge fan of Terrifier, like really huge. A week before Terrifier 2 hit the movie theaters, I got an email from his rep saying, hey, I represent Pete Davidson, he's a huge fan, he'd love for you to call him. And I was like, what? And I thought it was a joke, I thought somebody was pranking me. And I was like, all right, like here's my number. And And sure enough, I get a text message, and he's like, "Hey, it's Pete Davidson." He's like, "I'm on set right now, but can you talk in like an hour?" And I'm like, "Sure, man, call me." I still think it's a prank. And then sure enough, the phone rings, I pick it up, he's like, "Yo," and I'm like, "That's Pete fucking Davidson." And he's like, "Dude," he's like, "I've been the biggest Terrifier fan. He's like, I just found out a part 2 is coming out." He's like, "Everybody on SNL has seen that hacksaw scene." He's like, "It's all I do is show everybody that." He's like a troll. Like, he loves messing with people. It's amazing. And then he came. We both live on Staten Island, and then he rented out a movie theater there for a private screening. He had us show it, and I went there with my producer Phil, and we showed him Terrifier 2. He loved it. And then maybe like a couple of weeks later, he texted me, and he's like, "Hey man, I got this idea. I'm shooting this show. Spoiler, I guess if you haven't seen Buckets." He's like, "There's a scene where," he's like, "I'm in rehab and I'm high and I'm hallucinating." He's like, "And the people in front of me start morphing into celebrities in my mind." He's like, "What if one of them is Art the Clown?" He's like, "You don't have to do it." He's like, "But I thought that'd be crazy." I'm like, "Oh, 100%. I'll do it." In a heartbeat. Because it doesn't mess with the mythology, and that movie's kind of based on his, I mean, that show's based sort of on his life. So him being a fan, it's perfect. So we just went down, spent one day. They kind of let me direct it, but I mean, me and Dave just, did our thing. We improvised, we made faces, the typical faces and stuff. And they were just having a blast, the whole cast and crew, treated him like a rock star on set. They all wanted to see him.
It's so awesome. Like, I even scared the crap out of Machine Gun Kelly, so that was
Well, then that's another thing, like Pete will do. It'll be 2 o'clock in the morning, I'll get a video from Pete, I'll open it up, and it's Machine Gun Kelly watching Terrifier 2 and freaking out. Pete Davidson's laughing. It's insane. It's so surreal. So, yeah, it's been wild.
All right. So after I watched Terrifier 2, my mom looked over at me and she's like, "I wonder what kind of trash bags they use." So we were just curious. What kind of trash bags do y'all use for Terrifier?
Good question. I don't know. Movie magic.
Hello, I was actually wondering if you could film any movie with art versus any slasher, or horror villain, and who would it be? Art versus who?
That's a good question. Me, I would choose Freddy Krueger. Either facing off or teaming up, because they both have a great sense of humor, and now they're both kind of living in this supernatural world. I think there's a lot you can do with those two. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I don't want that. That's also one of mine too, but I also would like to bring in another lower budget indie. Papa Core. Exactly. Because they're both so messed up in their own way, and that'll be an interesting way to team up really more than anything. So yeah, so like, I still haven't been able to meet Billy yet. I know he's here this weekend. We always chat all the time online and kind of rib each other, so it's a lot of fun. So just want to give my love to Billy Vaughn right now.
I have 2 questions for both of you. My first one is, what's your favorite weapon that Art uses?
Mine would be his, I guess what you call it, the cat of nine tails. I think that's his most unique weapon that he has. I think it's a really cool weapon. It's a horrible thing too. I've actually now been on the receiving end of it, both on screen and in real life, because Lauren got me across the lip one night with that thing, and I was like, woohoo! I was like, now I know how it feels for everybody else, and that's not a lot of fun. But what I think is really cool about that weapon too, what makes it a little bit more unique, is those aren't ropes attaching all the instruments. That's the hair of the victims.
I got that from Boba Fett, believe it or not, because he keeps the Wookiee braids. I remember, from the trophies from the Wookiees he's killed, and I remember just reading that a long time ago. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So, Art uses the braids of his victims.
And I was also wondering, what's your favorite horror movie kill in any movie ever?
Damn.
I love the marionette kill from Nightmare.
Oh, that's a great one.
I think that was so messed up, and just all it looks so cool too.
So creative.
Yeah.
Right. I can't think off the top of my head, but I would say a kill I watch over and over, and I already said it's my favorite movie of all time, is Quint being eaten at the end of Jaws. Yeah.
Hi, I was wondering, so Terrifier has some of my favorite
You look
kills of all
amazing, by the way.
Terrifier has some of my favorite kills of all time. What was the inspiration behind, like, the hacksaw kill, or even, like, the veteran?
Yeah, the hacksaw kill, thank you, by the way. The hacksaw kill was, I was looking up medieval torture methods, just trying to get new ideas of things I've never seen before in a slasher film. And once I saw that, I was like, I never saw a killer do that to a victim before. And I said, let's try and do that. And then the alley bedroom kill scene was based on a photograph of Jack the Ripper's last victim. You just see her corpse in a bed, and it was so disturbing to me. And I said, what if Art the Clown did that? And I'll just reverse engineer it and show how that person ended up in that situation. And then other kills, it could just be a generic kill from a million slashers, and I'm like, how can I take that and put my little twist on it? It could just be something as simple as him killing somebody with a butcher knife. And I'm like, how can I do that differently? Or just stab somebody 1,000 times instead of once, so the blade gets stuck in their face, and just do like little unique things.
And then follow-up question, what was your favorite kill to do?
Oh, definitely Allie's kill. that was just crazy. And, and we shot that for like 5 days too, so it's like each day it's like, oh, what are we doing today? I think one of my favorite parts of that one was the wishboning of the hand. And that was like, that was, and I did not expect the hand to split as far as it did too. That was a one-take thing, and I'm like, oh my god. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're all one-take deal. They don't have one body part. Thank you.
As an aspiring horror film director, this question's for both of you. What advice can you give to anyone who wants to make a horror movie? David as an actor, Damien as a director, what advice would you like to give?
I say number one, keep learning. There's always something new to learn. I'm always trying to learn new things as an actor, new ways to tackle characters, etc. I mean, I learned something from our new Predator yesterday, just about how he approached playing the Predator, and just how he changed his stance with his hip and how he walked forward. That's a cool idea. I have to remember that for something else. So I say always keep learning. There's always something new to learn, and always be consistent. It's like in this profession, you face rejection on a daily basis. You will get more no's than you get a yes, but it always takes that one yes to change everything for you. So I waited tables for 13 years in New York City doing side acting jobs. And then all of a sudden one day this little audition came up for Terrifier, for this low-budget independent film, and I had no idea what it was going to do for me. And it changed my life. So just keep on, keep on, keep on, keep on. This is something true.
Same. I mean, just keep making movies, no matter how small, no matter how big, just little 2-minute short films, whatever. You're just gonna keep learning. Everything you make, you're gonna make mistakes, and you're gonna learn to avoid those the next time. And just keep studying movies. You'll learn so much by just watching movies, watching great filmmakers, and picking up their techniques. The other thing I say is, if you're gonna get into the horror genre, whenever I would make something, I would say I have to put something in here that is going to stand out, that's going to get people talking. How can I get eyes on me when I'm making let's say Terrifier 1, I'm making a $30,000 movie when there's a $30 million Hollywood movie? Like, why are you going to come and see mine when you can go see the best in the world making this for all this money? And it's like, all right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put the hacksaw scene in my movie, and I'm going to show you things that they will never show you in a million years. And that gets people talking. I mean, people left that theater or left, Netflix saying, holy shit, like I just saw the craziest thing, you have to check this out. So, put things in, and I'm not saying it has to be horror oriented, but just put something cool that's really going to get people talking, because you got to say that. You're welcome, buddy.
Just again, thank you so much for making the Terrifier movies, because they're awesome. One thing that's cool with Terrifier 2 is you started to expand a little bit of the lore of Art the Clown. And I'm just curious, I know you said no spoilers, but is there a chance maybe we'll see the subway demons again?
No. Yeah, I think I'd say probably no subway demons. but you're gonna see a lot of crazy shit in part 2.
That's all we ask.
Hello.
Hey.
This question is for David. My question is, how did you physically and mentally prepare for the role of Art? Because it's super amazing role, and I'm wondering, you know, probably after filming, did you accidentally, like, just say I'm talking to a friend and then, you know, Art just slipped out of nowhere?
Accidentally stabbed him in the face.
Grab him by night.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Well, first off, I wasn't the first one to play Art. It was Mike Gianelli played it in All Hallows Eve, so I already had something to base him off of, which I was very grateful for. It made my job easier. Mike set a great foundation for me to build off of, and so I looked at a lot of his performance. I get a lot of the nuances he brought to the character, and then I wanted to bring more of the physical clowning aspect to Art, since, you know, he's Art the Clown. I felt that would help separate him from a lot of the other silent killers out there. That would add more personality to him, especially since the makeup lends itself to more versatility, because he's not behind a static mask like Michael Myers and Jason and those type of characters. So I wanted to add more of that. So I brought in all my experience from doing physical comedy my whole entire life. I was always a comedy guy. I did a lot of children's theater too. So, and children love physical comedy. They are more into the physical than the verbal, and definitely not verbal. So so I added a lot of what I learned from growing up doing that kind of comedy, and also from those great physical actors I mentioned earlier. And I blended that with my love of great villains. So I put a lot of, I look at Art as an amalgamation of all the horror slasher icons that came before him. There's little bits and pieces of every single one of those guys inside of him, and a little bit of Joker as well, of course. And I just blended that together, and out came Art. But yeah, sometimes it slips out to everyday life, and it's kind of crazy. Now I sometimes even notice, I was like, someone annoys me on the subway or something like that. I'm like, how would Art handle this situation? Like, uh-oh, I need a good therapist.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Flo. I have a couple things to say. Damien, what made you pick David? Like, what was it that was like, that's going to be him?
My butt? Yeah.
When I saw his butt in Terrifier 1, I knew I had to put it in Terrifier 2. You know,
I need to stop drinking Monster Energy.
So, when there was never an audition for Art the Clown with my buddy Mike Gianelli, right? So when I was making the first short film, The Night Circle with Art, I already had his life cast, and I knew I was going to sculpt a prosthetic for this character. And I said, hey, dude, I already have your life cast. I said, I know you're not an actor, but I have this clown character. All you really got to do is just sit there and make kind of like weird faces and smile, and just kind of like walk from here to here. I'm like, trust me, you could do it. I need you. It'll take you like one day. We'll shoot this. And he was like, oh, all right. And then before you know it, he gets roped into playing Art the Clown, and it starts kind of taking off, and then he has to keep playing him. So when it came time to do Terrifier, and I called him, I said, look, this is our shot to make finally a feature, that we've been trying to make forever. And years had gone by, and he just, had a heart-to-heart with me, and just like, dude, I'm not an actor. I don't really, want to do this with my life, and I can't go through all these hours in a makeup chair and this and that. So he, walked away. And then I said, all these years, everything I've made, the ups and downs were pretty unanimous. Everybody loved Art the Clown. Like, he worked, and I was like, shit, now I got to start from scratch, and I have to find an actor. But now that I was holding auditions and I could start from scratch, I said, I want this actor to be taller and thinner, because I think he's going to look way creepier, and it's going to just make the prosthetic look so much better, because I sculpted a very gaunt zombie-like, features, like with the sunken eyes and everything. So Dave was like the sixth person to come into the room, and as soon as I saw him walk in, I was like, bingo, I was like, that guy's going to look great in that He's going to look great in that prosthetic. And then he had this really wonderful big smile that won't show him. So So that was great. I would have been happy there, honestly. I would have felt like I could have directed him, hopefully. But then he said, well, what do I do? He didn't really have any sides or anything. And I said, you're a silent killer clown. I just need to see you act as if you're decapitating somebody, but you're very happy about it. Do it very gleefully. You're having a great time. And then you could see the audition online, and he just flipped the switch, and he just did what you now see as Art the Clown, basically. And I was like, oh my God, I was like, now this is an actor I could put in that makeup. He's going to bring so much more to it. So he was like I said, he was about the sixth person to come into the room, and it was just me and Phil watching, and I was nudging Phil, we're both laughing, we forgot we were having an audition, we just enjoyed what we were seeing. And when he left, I said, I'm not really looking for anything else. I was like, I think that's the guy. I said, let's just have him come back and put the prosthetic on and film him doing exactly that. And that's basically what we did. So I pretty much knew as soon as he walked in the room that he was going to be the guy.
I appreciate that you do it all, like the makeup, the directing, and then you write and stuff. I can just appreciate all that talent. And then
thank you.
I did like when you showed up to the premiere that you showed up as a Joker. So that was like really cool to me. So, thank you.
And you dressed for the job you want.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you for making the movie. One of my first memories as a child was the opening scene with Drew Barrymore hanging from a tree and Scream. So it's been a while since I found a movie that I gravitated towards, like the Terrifier, and just the whole character in general, the colors you use for the movie, the camera you use, everything, all the details I love. I actually want to make movies one day. I have a kind of a weird question, do you have to base yourself in Los Angeles or New York in order to start making horror films? Or do you think, I live in Las Vegas, so I'm not really sure if I should take the plunge and move there or try to do what I can where I am.
Oh, definitely not. You can do it anywhere. That's one of the reasons why I do everything, because I was alone. I wasn't surrounded by filmmakers. I was the only horror weirdo, and I was making movies, home movies since I'm 12. So you're not really going to go out and find crew members and things like that. You just get your friends and stuff. So as years go on, I would teach myself how to edit. I have to write my own things and just do my own special effects. And eventually that carries over, and then you just, eventually you'll start finding like-minded people and more professional people. But you definitely don't need to be. I mean, it could help. It could help. I mean, if you're an actor, that's a different, question maybe, I'm sure.
But even that's changing now because of, there's so many, I think COVID changed a lot of that with, there's so many just self-tape auditions going on now, so you don't even have to be in the city to audition anymore. So it's good. And I understand, I think they're starting to try to bring more of the industry to Las Vegas area and Atlanta and stuff like that too. So yeah, there's plenty of opportunities.
Thank you.
Yeah, you just have to be hungry and have the,
I'm real hungry.
have some talent. It does have to be extraordinary talent, but you have to be really passionate and persistent and believe in yourself and just don't give up. A lot of people get overwhelmed and they just give up.
Yeah.
You just have to keep going.
I have so much love for it that I get emotional when I think about it. I sit at home, I listen to podcasts, scary podcasts. I'm all into the 80s and before cinema right now. I'm trying to learn as much as I can. So yeah, I really appreciate your guys' time. This has been meeting you and being able to hear from you guys is incredible because you took something that was completely your own and in this day and age is really hard to break in, and you did it with full color, both of you guys. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate
Same as what she said. Mine's also in the filmmaking aspect. I was more curious for both of you, what non-horror films are the ones that make you want to do what you do, if there are any. For me, what got me in was Fellowship of the Ring, Rear Window, and Marx Brothers. I also love Marx Brothers.
Duck Soup?
Yeah.
Not in the opposite.
No, there's actually a kill that I would eventually want to put into one of these movies one day. I'm not going to give up this role until I get to put it in. It's a take on I want to do something from Duck Soup. So.
But I know your answer.
Yeah. My answer, it's my favorite movie of all time, and it is why I got into wanting to, do movies, being more of an actor, especially voiceover actor, is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That to me is a perfect movie. There's not a flaw in that movie for me. It is an amazing movie, and it's such an amalgamation of all these genres, and it's just, what got me into it also was they had a behind-the-scenes special on TV. I was like 8 years old at the time, and they showed how they made the movie, and I had never seen anything like that before. I found it so interesting. I was like, wow, this is how they actually made the movies. This is really cool. And I learned about Mel Blanc, who did all the voices of all the Looney Tunes, and that's when I had already started learning how to do voices myself, and my first voice was Goofy in first grade, and wow, there's this one guy that does all those voices. I want to be that guy one day, and now I know for being silent, go figure. but that's the movie, and recently I got to meet the creator of Roger Rabbit, Harry K. Wolf, the author, and he's just an awesome dude, so I had to thank him. But dude, I would not be where I am right now if it weren't for you, so,
Yeah. I think we could all agree that horror fans are just movie fans in general. Like, we could all pretty much talk about any genre, right? In-depth movies that we love. And so I'm obsessed since I'm a kid with all movies and all genres. And even this is like Terrifier 2, I paid, you know, homage to movies you would never imagine, like when Sienna's suiting up. I mean, that's me doing my version of the scene in Commando when Arnold's suiting up on the beach. Right? I knew that going in, like that was going to be that scene. And also, when I really decided that I wanted to be a filmmaker, it was just when Pulp Fiction came out, and Tarantino like changed the game. You know, you've never seen anything like that. Like everybody wanted to become a filmmaker, so I was so heavily influenced by him and still am big time. And also Martin Scorsese is one of my favorite filmmakers of all time, and that was the first director where I really, watching his movies, I realized that he had a style and he had a signature, and he was essentially starring in his own movies through the camera angles and the techniques that he was using, and I thought that was pretty awesome, that a filmmaker with a distinct style could really come through in his work. So I'm inspired by so many different genres and different filmmakers.
Yeah, I watched The Fablemans last night. This was
Oh, he's Jaws. Yeah.
Okay, that's me.
He's the best, yeah.
Hey, so I have one question for each of you guys, if that's okay.
Wait, were you Sienna?
Yes.
Yeah,
You
she had the
tried
best
it,
Sienna
though.
costume. Yeah.
So I was wondering, this is kind of specific, but when Sienna first meets Art the Clown, she's wearing this like horizontal striped sweater. Is that intentional? Because like
Yeah.
Art the Clown wears vertical and she's like the inverse of him?
Well, no, that's actually really good, but it's, I love to take credit for that, but the black and white was intentional, because Olga, my costume and production designer, would, you know, give me a bunch of clothes to choose from.
Yeah.
And, you know, I loved that shirt, and I was like, that looks the best. I was like, but it's black and white. I mean, like, why, you know, we're trying to do like distinct color schemes and patterns. I mean, and that's clearly Art the Clown. And then I was like, ooh, I said, if she wears that, she just had the Clown Cafe, you know, scene just happened. I said, this could be like, now he's sort of working his way into her reality, into her subconscious, so like so we did know that going in, and that's the reason why I chose that one.
Oh, okay, cool. It's
Yeah.
a really cute shirt too.
Yeah.
And then David, you said you're a musical theater nerd. Do you have a dream role that you would want to play?
I would love, there's so many, but I'll name two, because one's a musical hasn't been made yet, but
Frankenfurter.
Oh, actually, yeah, more riffraff. But I would really love to play Thenardier and play Les Rob. Or also Fagin from Oliver. But also, I can't believe they have not made this a musical yet, because they've made so many musicals off of movies, but not this one. Nightmare Before Christmas, come on, Dan. I want to be Jack Skellington so bad. It's like, oh my god, especially when I'm skinny, come on. But also I want to see Oogie Boogie's number on stage. Oh my giddy. I mean, if they can make Beetlejuice into an awesome musical, come on. You got Nightmare Before Christmas already has amazing music already, so come on!
Thank you guys.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Hey, man. Since the success of Terrifier 2 went mainstream, everybody was talking about it. Has anybody ever approached you or wanted to get your hand in making Evil Dead your version?
An Evil Dead
The
movie?
Evil Dead movie. Lee Cronin said that he left a lot of space open. Bruce Campbell has said they want to push out movies more and more.
Oh, I would kill to. It hasn't happened. I would kill to make an Evil Dead movie. But I do have I have a project in the works with Ghost House Pictures with Sam Raimi's company. Which I'm sure all of you, or most of you, have met him right this week, and he is the coolest, nicest guy on the face of the earth. Yeah, I had a Zoom meeting with him, and I was so fucking nervous. Evil Dead 2 is one of my favorite movies ever, especially Part 2, since I'm really young. So the Zoom meeting was to talk business, basically, and I shut it down just to fanboy out for like 10 minutes over Evil Dead 2. Before we get started, let me just say. So he's cool, though, and he's so super cool, so that's exciting, but I would totally make an Evil Dead movie.
Well, if it ever happened, I think you have a great tone for obviously comedy and horror, and then both of you just make your own story and just knock it out apart. We'd all like it.
Thanks, buddy.
David. So, trained actor, right?
Semi.
And then with art, you go silent. And art is not normal. His behavior and his mannerisms are far beyond normal. It's so believable on screen. What is your lion face, lemon face before they get action? What's the last thing that you mentally or physically prepare for before action?
I'm usually, I just do it. I guess this comes from my stage days, because I've done some shows where I've had to play multiple characters in the same performance, like when I did 39 Steps twice. I played over 60 characters in that show that you had to play it, so I would have to have my own arguments with myself on stage. So I can just boom, boom, in and out of character, because once I understand the character, they're just living somewhere in my head, and I can just bring them out when I need to.
Spin the Rolodex.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's probably really weird from everybody else's perspective on set, because 1 second I'm just over there doing Family Guy voices, this pervert the pervert type of thing. Hi, let's go out of and then he's like rolling in my angry eyes. And then he's like, okay, cut. And I'm like, oh my God, are you okay? Just back to myself. So that's, but like what I do with myself though is like, since I don't have any lines, I'm always making up my own dialogue in my head. So I have something to go off of for beats and all that kind of stuff. It helps just naturally, I just make faces off of what I'm thinking in my head. So it helps me at least. I don't know what other people do. That's why
I'd love to live up there one day, just for like an hour.
It's a crazy place. It's so crazy up there.
And then, Damien, it's not a question. I just want to say that I've never met you. I met you yesterday for the first time. I met everybody this weekend. For a complete stranger to walk up and go, dude, you're fucking insane. And then have to go, thanks, man. Like, that takes the cake. That takes the cake. It was a pleasure meeting you guys this weekend. Thank you so much for coming.
You're closing out the whole weekend, no pressure.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, boy.
No question, sorry. I just wanted to say thank you so much. As somebody that battles depression and anxiety, a few years ago, I was at the bar with my wife and friends and said goodbye to them. I was going to go home and kind of cash in. And I sat down on the couch and Terrifier popped up on Netflix. And I was like, well, I'll just see what this is about. It's kind of the last thing. It's super morbid. But I ended up watching the whole thing. I was like, bro, what the fuck? And my wife followed me home, unbeknownst to me. She came in during the hacksaw scene, of course, naturally. But since, I watched that movie, went to bed, and got up and got help, and I'm making movies of my own, and I'll be forever thankful for that.
I actually want to add something off of what you said then, because, sorry if I get a little emotional. But I lost my mom when I was in college, and at the time I was studying to be an elementary school teacher. And I went through a hard time during that time period of my life, because it was like a year after my mom died, I was starting my internship in the schools, And my dog died, my grandmother died, a good friend of mine committed suicide, and my sister married a homeless man. And it's all in a month that I went to go into my internship in the schools, and I was, at the time, I was like the top of my class. I was like the ideal teacher, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I was majorly depressed. I was very angry at the world. And I was just not in my right frame of mind. I was just downward spiral, and it was affecting everything else in the classroom. I was making mistakes left and right, and I was like, what is wrong with me right now? And then one day, I'm doing story time with my children, and I'm doing all the little fun little voices for the characters, and they're just laughing, having fun, and of course I had to move on to math next, because they didn't want to move on to math, and I did blame them, because we were doing multiplication and division and all that fun stuff, and it just dawned on me in that moment that I got more fulfillment out of entertaining my students than teaching them. And I had that epiphany about what I need to do with my life. Because right before my mom passed away, we had our final talk with each other. And it was the last thing she ever... Sorry.
We love David.
Yeah. But, sorry. That was the last word she ever said. And he said, life's too short. Don't do what you think you have to do with your life. Do what you want to do with your life. You've been given gifts. Don't squander them. I want you to live the life that you want to live. And after all, and it didn't hit me at that time, you know, but it was that day that those words came back to me, and I'm like, this is what I need to do with my life. I'm meant to entertain people. And I talked to my dad that night. My dad is a NASA engineer who rockets in space, very, very practical, pragmatic man. And I thought I was going to have this big, huge, long, you know, conversation with him about all this because, you know, I put all this time and effort into becoming a teacher. And he's like, oh, no, your mom and I always thought you should be an actor, but we didn't want to tell you what to do with people. I'm like, I had a speech prepared. I had this rallying speech to get you on my side. But he's like, no, just, you need to do what you want to do with your life. It's your life to live. Why don't you just take a year off, get your head back in the game, and then finish up your degree so you have something to fall back on, then move to New York and pursue this. And it was the most freeing thing I've ever had in my life. I just felt like this giant burden was off my shoulders, and I'm like, I can do what I want to do. And so to deal with that depression, I threw myself into acting. I was doing show after show after show after show in Huntsville, Alabama before I moved up to New York. And it saved me because those few hours that I could be on stage or in rehearsal, I was able to escape the horrible stuff going on in my own life and be someone else for a change. And it was so freeing, and I loved it, and that's why I went into this profession. And because I loved bringing joy and laughter, now scares to other people, and that's why it's the best job in the world. And I say, if you're going through something that is destroying you on the inside, know first of all that you have people that love you and support you, and they care about you. But also find something constructive, not destructive. Find something constructive to do in your life to keep you going forward. Whatever it is, something that you love to do. And you can turn that into a career, it's even better. But find something and reach out to people if you need help too. But I'm so happy to hear that you're doing so much better now.